dark out here. But anyway, that's some shit out. Video in response to somebody that put out a video on the prophetic, and I would say this, to me the prophetic is more than just, it's a sad reality. I think a lot of what's happened is a lot of people will, even pastors, they'll put a disclaimer on it and say, well, you can't do X, Y, Z because you haven't been in the pulpit for 20 years, or you haven't been in ministry for 20 years, or they try to monetize the gift when you can't monetize it. It's not something that was ever meant to be monetized. Now, that's like aside from like books and CDs, all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, I could think of one, there's all these conferences and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing: there's too many people out there that call themselves that, and they're trying to be almost like Miss Cleo, if you will. We all remember Miss Cleo back in the day, how she was a psychic that used her psychic powers to do whatever she was doing, and any psychic out there is like they're charging an arm and a leg a lot of times, especially the ones that come on in early morning hours, just for them to try and give you what they believe your future is. And it's like, why would you pay somebody for one thing to go and try to give you your future when God Himself says, hey, I'm gonna show you what you need to do, where you need to go. You just gotta listen to me and listen to my voice. Like the word says to my sheep hear me and they know my voice. They don't. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to understand, trying to hear a voice that they believe is God when it's their head talking or something else talking. And that's one of the deal for this time. But anyway, so then you got that going on, and you got the people that will try to monetize that gift by requiring that you want to take your gift to the next level, maybe $500 to go to this conference. And that's kind of what the whole Rick Pino thing was. And I mean, it was like I went in and did this free conference about a month ago, did what I could, a couple sessions. It was a long session deal, and it was good. I liked it, Got to, it's discussions that were probably key, good discussions. Got to, I actually made a few friends out of the whole deal, which is kind of cool. That's what's up, To me, I think it's wrong to charge a large dollar amount to go either to try and get what's already been paid for. When Christ died 2,000 years, He already paid for you to get. So why am I having to pay this guy a large sum? Now, that's separate from like books and CDs. I believe you should support people that are putting books out, things like that, teachings, all that kind of stuff. Because you need that. You need that sound teaching and sound doctrine. Okay. Now leave it at that. And then the next thing, the other thing with that is is I would say that the one thing that people don't really understand about that, and people oftentimes will try to complicate that gift with like 50 or 10 qualifications on what you need to do, and or what you need to have. All right, it's not about it's not about your pre-qualifications. It's about you coming to know God in a deep way. You coming to understand God and who God is and what He came to do for you. And when you understand that your life and your calling, man, are a lot deeper than what you think they are. You know, and I oftentimes I think about this for a sec, right? The job that you're doing right now is not your calling. Your calling, I mean, it could be, I suppose, if you're a pastor and that's what you're called to do, I suppose, yeah, in that sense, yes. But I'm saying, like, if you are working a job and you have a separate, and you have something else that is your calling, you know, like for me, I have an office job or clean an office, and that's separate from what my calling is, you know. And I think a lot of people that's where a lot of people get it mixed up. They try to, or maybe it's this, trying to fit something else into your calling. You're trying to walk in some other shoes that you were never meant to walk in. You know, I would say if I was to define the prophetic, I would say it this way. It's not something to be played around with, messed around with, or anything like that. Not to be monetized, not to be taken for granted, for one thing. Nor is it something that you want to be like, oh, I'm just going to hang around, and once I find my group of people that are prophetic in what they do and what they're saying, just hang around them, and maybe I'll get a word. And that's not true. I don't believe that. You know, I mean, then again, to me, it's like I look at myself and I say, yeah, that was me. I was that dude. Sometimes, you know, you get around a prophet, and guess what? You want to hang around them, and maybe they'll have a word for you. You know, but here's the thing. It's about you accessing. And I believe this, I would say this, everybody has, if you have God in you, I believe that God can speak to you and through you. You just have to allow Him to give Him the opportunity, give Him the time to speak to you. Now that's different than, the difference between that versus the prophetic is oftentimes, God, it's like, here's the thing. I believe God speaks to everybody if you allow Him to do so, if you've given Him the ability or the time, and you're open to that kind of stuff, then He'll speak to you what you need to do in your life, in your situations, right? But as it pertains to the prophetic, oftentimes what He will do is give you a word for somebody, and oftentimes He'll give you a word, but here's the other thing. He will not force His will upon you, not force Himself upon you. He's a gentleman. God, the Spirit, right? So the Spirit's not going to impose something on you and then obligate you. That's where I think that's where a lot of people get it messed up. Is they think that gift is like, oh, okay, now He's going to impose His will on me and ask me to do something that I don't really want to do, but I'll I'll entertain it kind of thing. But, it's like for me in my books, right? I like to write, or even to do these videos, right? I think that's, it's like a lot of times what God will do is He'll take something that you're naturally gifted in already and just expand it. If you're not somebody that likes to do a video or write a book or whatever, then He's not going to give you that gift. It's oftentimes it's something that you're already doing, or that you have that natural knack for doing. And I think a lot of people are missing out on the blessing by not finding what they were meant to do in life. You're walking around with shoes that are too big for what you have. Walking around with shoes that are too big for you to be walking. It's like somebody that says, they're walking around with shoes that are a size 15 and they're really a size 10, and your feet don't fit. And there's a lot of people, I believe, that are walking around with a supposed gift that it's not their true gift. They just said, well, I want to walk in this gift over here, but they never sought God on that one, and really got in the Spirit and prayed about it and all of that. But then again, a lot of times God, you just gotta stay connected. It's all about your connection. That's really all I can say on that. Because like I said, and a lot of times, your connection. Once you have that connection with Him, and it's like it's a special and it's a beautiful thing, because now you're connected to Him in a way that you never thought you could be. God Himself is like, hey, I want to connect you. I want to connect with you on something, so that number one, you're going to know who I am and what I came to do and all that I am. I want you to know who I am and what I have done for you. And I think that's really where it's at. Too many people don't really know that. You just kind of have a desire to want to do or want to have or walk in a certain calling or gift in life, or as well, and then they don't really want to. It's like embracing the truth of what do you want to do with your life, You've got every reason. Seek God and know that God is good. He will do whatever you want, as long as it's in His will. It's like He wants you to know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, number one, He calls you out. And a lot of times, things that oftentimes he'll remind me of all of the stuff that I went through to get to where I'm at, and that's special because that provides a position for you to understand Him, and to know Him on a deeper level, and walk in a deeper level with Him. And it's like He's all about you walking in a deeper level of understanding and knowing all that He is and all that He came to do in this world, in this life. Too many people will look to God too much like a genie in the sky. He ain't a genie in the sky, for one thing. But I know I'm going all over the map here, but that's okay. Somebody may need to hear that, just so you know. But anyway, what else was I going to say? To me, it's like you have every reason to walk in the you got to realize what it is that you're called to do And if you understand what you're called to do, it's time to walk it out. It's time to not be ashamed about it. And allow yourself to be used. You know, I didn't get to where I am right now by not praying, not seeking His face. I mean, I can, it's like you have to have come through some things, and then in that process, I believe God will begin to mold you and make you into His image. His image of what you are supposed to be doing. And I mean, I could show you every word that I got. If you got all day, it's a lot. Okay, I have a lot of words, by the way. A lot of different words that He's spoken in my life. But here's the thing. I myself don't share everything that I get, because it's not for everyone. There's He gave me word. I got words on my grandma even. Eventually I'm gonna share it with my family and all that kind of stuff, but it's just kind of, those are things you just kind of keep to yourself. And then there are other things that are more of a corporate nature where, yes, that needs to be shared globally. And see, that's where it comes into play. See, I believe there's like a couple of different ways that you can flow. That people flow in that gift. There are people that are so in the spirit that they get words all the time, and it's like, to me, it's like a faucet, right? Turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. I mean, I could probably, if I could probably get something every day. For a while there, I would, it's all based on how much time you want to spend in getting in the spirit to find what He really wants you to have. And the more times you spend in the spirit, the more times He's going to give you things that are going to be for other people. And I've had other words for other people that are in ministry at some point, or just friends, or what have you. And people, and that's good. And then I'll look back on some of those words and I'm like, wow, that was fire. And that's like, that was a good word. And you don't have to sit there and, I'm no longer sitting there having to question that. What's true, and when you know what's true, you're no longer having to be in this place of questioning. Is that Him? Because you know His voice. When you don't know His voice, you're more often than not, you're going to question everything that you hear, and you're going to doubt it. Because you don't know. You haven't been walking with Him long enough to know His voice. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like driving a car. A new car. You don't really know how that drives, and it's gonna have a different feel for it for a minute, until you've gotten comfortable, until you've gotten a handle on how it operates and how it drives. And the same is true for Him, man. The more you spend with Him, the more you're gonna understand and know His ways, and know that His voice is gonna lead you. And it's going to be effortless, and it's going to be like, whoa, I didn't know I was going to be in this place. See, here's the thing. I'm going to be honest and say, I never even crossed my mind. God's my witness on that one. That, I'm not, He's my witness on that, because I never once looked at it and said, okay, I'm going to be a prophet someday. Or I'm going to walk in that gift over there. You know? A lot of times, it's just you seek God. And that's all it is. You seek God, God's going to he'll show you what you need to do. Show you where to go. And it's like, I know for a fact that I could probably, how many times I want to rain down heaven, In my, it's like shaking the heavens. That's really what it is. The prophetic is shaking the heavens. It's bringing, it's bringing the reality of heaven and that world to this world, and it's bringing that reality of who He is to a world that needs to know Him, but also to a church that in a lot of ways is distant from Him because they choose not to know His ways or want to follow in His ways. Well, that's a deep word right there. So, I know I went long, deep, all that kind of stuff, and that's all good. Sometimes sometimes it does require that to go deep. So, much love and respect to y'all. I mean, God Himself has given us the ability to be able to hear from Him. We all have that ability. But I believe it's different. What you got to do is different. What you got to understand is differentiating hearing His voice from the prophetic. The prophetic is more of a continual thing where it's not just it's more of that word of knowledge. That's really what it is. Corporate stuff. It's whereas just hearing from Him. But you got to be able to. You have to, like somebody, like a friend said. You got to start It's like you got to start somewhere. And be like this. Prophesy to yourself first. Get a word for yourself, and when you get a word for yourself, and then here's the thing. Oftentimes He'll give you a word for somebody else or the world as a whole. And I could share many things about the world as a whole. I mean, that's another time. I got a whole bunch of stuff to unpack. I know that much. I'm just gonna basically pick 3 or 4 things and we're just gonna share it, because there's a lot of things that a lot of times that's what I'll do is if it's been a minute since I shared something, I'm just gonna be like, okay, this is bling bling. This is what's going on here. Boom. And then it's funny to think about this too is that I had a word of encouragement for a friend, and then I got a reply from somebody else who was like, "Oh, I spoke that over to Stephen," or whatever, and it was like, "Hey, listen, there are 3 scriptures," and it was so cool in that respect that I wasn't gunning for the hey, but a lot of times, He confirms what He says with scriptures in a lot of ways, which is kind of cool if you think about it. I love that. When you can hear from heaven and He says, well, let me just show you something. Let me just tell you what you need to know. I'm going to show you this. And then somebody comes along sometime later and says, well, these are the 3 scriptures that go along with that. And you're like, oh, really? Cool. Excellent. And that's really where it's at. I think there's a lot of people that look at that gift and they think, well, if you're walking in that gift, you gotta have a word for everybody that you come in contact. And I would say that's not true. It's as the Spirit wills to to do. I mean, it's wrong to sit there and say, oh well, you gotta have a word for me. Not everybody I come in contact with, I'm like, here's the thing, I have to do. I think you have to do this. If you're gonna walk in that gift, be humble, and know that don't just be making up stuff just to make stuff up, but really tap into him and get on his level of what he wants you to say. And if you can do that, hey, there we are. You got something that's gonna, and it's like anybody can give a word, but is it of God or not? That's the question you have to understand. If it's not of God, then why are you saying that? If it ain't of God, then don't say it. You know what I'm saying? That is pretty pretty straight on direct on that. See, a lot of people they'll say a word because they're desperate to get a reaction, or they're desperate to find maybe approval in man's eyes instead of God's eyes, and God's like, look, I will tell you what to say, when to say it, and all of that. Listen for my voice, and when you know my voice, I'm speaking to you about this situation or that situation, or this thing as a whole in the world. Now you'll understand where I'm coming from. Now you'll understand my ways. See, that's a lot of times I think that's really where it's at. Is too many people don't really understand his directions. It's like you picked up a piece of furniture at the store, and there's a set of directions you never bothered to read. You just thought you'd set it together, and it doesn't fit right because you never read the instructions. If you'd read the instructions, it'd tell you how to put it together, where to put it, and all that fine stuff. So that's really all there is to it. I mean, I think sometimes people take these giftings and then they don't take the proper time to let it grow, let it mature, let it form you on the inside out. Let it make you into a better person. See, wow, that's good. I like that. There's a lot of people out there trying to do a gifting, trying to walk into something that you're never going to do it or get to on your own effort, because it's because like I said, you're doing it on your own effort. You're not doing it with that in mind. Anyway, so